Hey there, grades. Today's lesson is going to be about 6.6, which is creating a table of values. So, um, you may recall using something like this in grade 7, where you kind of have your input and your output. Um, and so it's very, very similar. So what we're actually going to be getting into is actually graphing some of this stuff. So some of this might be a refresher from grade 7, and some of it might be new for you. Okay, so the input is basically saying what is the variable equal to. Okay, so here we have the expression 3h plus 2. So when we have expressions like these, we don't have a definite value. We don't have a definite answer. So what we're actually saying is if our h equals whatever. So if our h equals 0, if our h equals 1, if our h equals 2, what's the output going to be? What's our answer going to be? Okay, when we actually have a definite thing. So let's start with 0. Okay, so if our output or our input equals 0, we're going to say 3 times 0, which is 0 plus 2. So our answer is going to be, our output is going to be 2. If we have 1, okay, where our h equals 1, we're going to say 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. If we're going to say that our input is 2, so our h is 2, so 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. All right, so we notice a pattern. Okay, we went 3, 5, 8. It's going up by 3 every single time, which is our numerical coefficient. So just a reminder, when we have an expression, so if we have, we'll use the same one. So 3h plus 2, our 3, our number that comes before our variable, is called our numerical coefficient. The actual letter, that's called our variable, and then whatever we have here, including the sign, is called our constant. That's not going to change. All right. This is going to come into play in a little bit to actually understand what those things are. Okay. So if we have 3, if I follow that same pattern, I'm going to predict that it's 11. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. So that works out. The next one I'm predicting is going to be 14. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So it seems to work out just fine. All right. The next one that we have over here is, so we have x. All right, I'll just erase this quickly. If we have x, x equals 0, what's going to happen here? We're going to have 20 minus 3 times 0. Well, 20 minus 0 is 20. Okay. If I say that x equals 1, I'm going to say 20 minus 3 times 1. So 3 times 1 is 3, so 20 minus 3 is 17. So I see that it already went down by 3. So I'm going to make a prediction already that my next answer is going to be 14. I assume it's going to follow that same pattern. So if x equals 2, so I'm going to get 3 times 2 is 6. 20 minus 6 is 14. So I'm correct. So I can follow that same pattern. I can keep going. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what happens. I get 11. I get 8. I get 5. And 2. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second. So what's actually going on is we're actually following this pattern. This is what is called a linear equation because the same thing is happening over and over again. We're getting the same change every single time. Okay, so how do I actually predict what those changes are going to be? Well, when I'm looking at my constant is going to be when x equals 0. So my constant here is 20. My constant here was 2. So when x equals 0 or my input equals 0, that's going to be what my constant is. The change in my output is going to be my numerical coefficient. So in this one, my change was changing by 3. Same with this one. So my numerical coefficient, well, sorry, this is going down 3. So it's negative 3. That's my numerical coefficient. This one is going up by 3. So my numerical coefficient is going to be positive 3. Now, if I was to take this, I'll talk about this one here, and I'm going to graph it. Okay, I'm going to put it on a graph. So I have something here, but I'm just going to change these numbers so that it works out a little bit better. So instead of by 2, it's going to be by 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. All right. I'm going to use a, let's go red, just so that maybe it stands out a bit more so we can actually see the line. So basically what I'm going to do is my bottom line, okay, my input is going to be my x, okay, and then my output is going to be my y. So this is my input, and then this is my output. All right. So when x equals 0, my output equaled 20. So that's where I ended up. Okay. So 0 and 20. Next, I'm going to look at 1 is going to be with 17. So 1 and 17. 2 is going to be with 14. 3 is going to be with 11. 4 is with 8. 5 is with 5. 6 is with 2. This line. So what we actually see is it's creating a straight line. So I'll draw this line out so that we can actually see it a little bit better. Okay, and if we were to go into the negatives for the input, or if we were to go further down, that line would just continue, and it would be straight all the way through. All right, it would not change. It's going to be straight no matter what happens, no matter what number we put in. This is what's called a linear equation. It just goes straight. All right, so we're going to move down to this last example. Okay, here we have something that's already filled out. All right, this last example, what you're actually trying to do is you're actually trying to show me what the expression is. All right, so let's say we can use any variable that we want. Pause it if you want, and then try it out. Let's use n. Okay, n seems to be an easy one. That's going to be my variable. So my constant is going to be when my input equals 0. Okay, when my input equals 0. So my input here is 0. My output is 11. So it's going to be plus 11. Okay, that's going to be my my constant. When my input is 0, whatever my output is, that is my constant. My change in my output is actually going to be my numerical coefficient. So as I go up in my input, my output increases by 2 every single time. So my numerical coefficient ends up being 2 in this situation. So I can try it out. So if I want to put 1 in, so 2 times 1 is 2, plus 11 is 13, which works out. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 11 is 15. So this equation seems to be working out well for the input-output that I have. All right. Once again, make sure, so that's it for this lesson, but once again, make sure that if you have any questions, send me a Hangout message. Have your questions ready for the Zoom session. Make sure that you complete the Google form. Make sure you do your Math Makes Sense 6.6. Make sure that that gets submitted to Google Classroom, the assignment that's posted there. And then just bring me your questions. Good luck.